سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی، یہ تو دنیا کو دکھانا تھی، عداوت کی حدیں، یہ تو دنیا کو دکھانا تھی، عداوت کی حدیں۔ کون کہتا ہے کہ بے شیر نے مانگا پانی، رن سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی، دشمن آل پیمبر تو ہو صحرا بے فرات، دشمن آل پیمبر تو ہو صحرا بے فرات، اور پیاسا رہے احمد کا نواسا پانی، رن سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی، آس دیتی تھی سکینہ یہی ہر بچے کو، آس دیتی تھی سکینہ یہی ہر بچے کو، رن سے آتے ہیں چچا سب کو ملے گا پانی، رن سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی، بعد اصغر کے یہ کہتی رہی ایک ایک سے ربا، بعد اصغر کے یہ کہتی رہی ایک ایک سے ربا، ننھی تربات پہ چھڑک آتی جو ملتا پانی، رن سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی، کوفہ و شام کی راہوں میں ہر ایک منزل پر، کوفہ و شام کی راہوں میں ہر ایک منزل پر مانگتی ہی رہی ایک ایک سے سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی ایک پیاسے کا یہ پیغام ہے دنیا سن لے ایک پیاسے کا یہ پیغام ہے دنیا سن لے یاد کر لے نا مجھے پینا جو ٹھنڈا پانی رن سے آ کر علی اکبر نے جو مانگا پانی سلوات
رحم اللہ من قرأ سورة الفاتحة بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ایک دفعہ اور سورہ فاتحہ کی تلاوت کر کے آج کے اسپانسرز کے مرحومین کی روح کو اصال کرتے ہیں. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد للہ الذی قصرت عن رؤیته ابصار الناظرین وعجزت عن نعته اوہام الواصفین. الحمد للہ رب العالمین. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. This is the last and the third majlis in this series of majalis in which I had the privilege and honor to be amongst your community as requested by some of the brothers, organizers, to continue the discussions in English, um, especially for the youth, which are very difficult to find. Maybe they are watching online. While there are benefits of live streaming, there are some drawbacks of it as well, which we see apparently. But nonetheless, as the hukm has been given, I will inshallah oblige with it. The verse that I chose for tonight's discussion, as you may have been listening for the past couple of nights, the very first night I recited the first 4 ayat of Surah Wal-Qalam, chapter 68. Last night I recited the first 4 ayat of Surah Balad, chapter number 90. And tonight I recited the last 4 ayat from Surah Wal-Fajr, chapter number 89. And in these very famous ayat, which you hear a great deal because there's an association of these ayat with Sayyid al-Shuhada. These last 4 ayat which speak and say, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna, O the serene and sound soul, return to your Lord. Irja'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya, return to your Lord in the state that you are satisfied with it, and your Lord is satisfied with you. Fadkhuli fi ibadi, become part of those who are my servants. Wadkhuli jannati, and enter into my paradise. We find that this surah also begins with an oath, with a qasam in the beginning. The very first ayat of Surah Wal-Fajr is Wal-Fajr, by the dawn, walayalin ashr, and by the 10 nights. The 10 nights, layali are the plural for the nights, and ashr. Wash-shaf'i wal-watr, the odd and the even nights. So from here, many of the mufassirin have attached and associated that these ayat are in reference to the month of Muharram al-Haram, the first 10 nights of the month of Muharram al-Haram, in which we commemorate the Ashura, the Musibah of Ahl Bayt. And therefore, these Layalin Ashr, the first 10 nights, are one of the implementations of this ayah. And more support is given towards the end of the chapter when it says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna, O the satisfied soul, O the serene soul. So when you put these two things together, of course, the tafsir is another thing, tatbiq is another thing. Tafsir is that which was the reason for the revelation. Of course, Waqi Karbala did not take place at that time. In fact, it took place 50 years after the wafat of Rasulullah. The fact that ayat of Quran will have implementation until the day of judgment, this is one of the implementations of it. The 10 nights could be the last 10 nights of Ramadan. The 10 nights could be the first 10 nights of Dhul Hijjah up until Hajj. And the 10 nights could be the first 10 nights of month of Muharram al-Haram. Interesting chapter, as all these chapters are very interesting, that after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath by the dawn, Wal-Fajr, the very important time of the day. Someone asked Imam, what is the time of Fajr? Or in fact, someone from the other religion asked Imam, testing him, what is the time that is neither part of the day nor the night? Imam said, the time of Fajr. Time of Fajr does not belong to day or night. This is the time which belongs to the paradise, the hereafter. This is the time in which if you were suffering all night long, even the person who was in pain comes to at ease at this time. That's why so much emphasis is laid upon getting up that early and doing the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's interesting that you find and you hear the birds chirping and, saying and singing and, reading the adhkar, but unfortunately, Ashraful Makhluqat is fast asleep and not utilizing that very important time which has been stipulated for your ibadat. So therefore, take this opportunity. Don't squander it. At least, one of the marja of our time, he said, the fact that you get up for Salatul Fajr is not because, you are some sort of, an individual who's really worried about, his wajibat or so. No, you get up for Fajr because you want the paradise and you're afraid of Jahannam. When you get up for Salatul Layl prior to Fajr, that's what raises your status. So show that much resistance and self-control if you're able to get up for Salatul Layl. A lot of time people say, well, it's very difficult to get up for 2 rakat Salatul Fajr, let alone Salatul Layl, which is 11 rak'at before that. You don't have to pray right at the time of Fajr. You can pray that any time after Salatul Isha. Preferably closer to Namaz Subh. But nonetheless, that is as far as this Salat is concerned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in these ayat, He says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. He did not say, Ya ayyatuhal jismul mutma'inna. You notice? He didn't say, oh, the serene and satisfied body. He said, oh, the serene and satisfied soul. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the soul to be satisfied, not necessarily the body. You and I are busy beautifying this body, taking care of this body, paying so much attention toward this body, which is good. You should not, hurt or harm this body of yours. It is an amanat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we have spent so much time in the beautification of the body that we fail to pay any attention to the beautification of our soul. But what Allah is looking for is the itminan of the nafs, not the itminan and the satisfaction of the body. You and I satisfy our bodies. Our body is asking for something, we go ahead and provide for it. What's our nafs asking sometimes is the opposite of what our bodies are asking for. So therefore the ayat is very clear. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna. Something which satisfies you. If I was to ask a question over here, what is it that satisfies you? Many people will give different answers. Some might say, well, my children's well-being is a matter of satisfaction for me. My children's success is a matter of satisfaction for me. Things revolving around your children. Or if I achieve something materialistic, that is a means of satisfaction for me. If I have performed my obligation, that is a matter of satisfaction for me. A lot of the things that we find satisfaction are materialistic. The moment you go after materialism and materialistic things to satisfy this soul and body of yours, it will never be satiated. It will remain thirsty. Why? Because materialistic things are temporary in nature. Whenever you use something temporary to satisfy, which is asking for eternal satisfaction, it will never be satiated. Oh Allah, can you tell us then, what is it that satisfies the soul? Quran, some of the ayat do the tafsir of other ayat of Quran. بَعْضُهُ يُفَسِّرُ بَعْضُهُ. The ayat which says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna. Oh Allah, how do we attain this itminan nafs? You look for another ayat of Quran, which says, Ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. With the dhikr of Allah, the hearts are mutma'in. With the dhikr of Allah, the hearts are satisfied. There the word nafs is used, here the word heart is used. Same thing. Heart is not referring to this organ of ours. Heart refers to our nafs, ourselves and souls. Oh Allah, how do we find this ultimate satisfaction? It says, Ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. With the dhikr of Allah, itminan qalb is attained. How do we attain? Further explanation. How do we do the zikr of Allah? Further explanation comes from Quran. أقم الصلاة لذكري. Establish the prayer to do my dhikr. Dhikr gives you itminan qalb. Salat becomes the best means of doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, this ibadat is that ultimate way and method of finding itminan. Itminan abadi, not just temporary in nature. Therefore, a lot of time when we are looking for this itminan, you look for it in the ibadat. One of the things that you do as an ibadat is this gathering right here. This majlis is ibadat for you. We need to inculcate that into our children. The way you have aqidat toward this majlis, you find sometimes your children don't have the similar aqidat. The way when you, and I'm speaking to the kids, you see that as soon as the masayib start, an elderly is weeping and crying, wailing and, shedding tears. And we look around and say, oh, fine, I want to show emotions as well, but I don't want to cry in between people. And the children sometimes are shy of crying. So I don't want to be crying in front of others. While you see an elderly is weeping and crying. Their shyness is keeping them from crying, although their heart may want to cry. But some of this hijab is keeping them from doing so. They need to understand when it comes to Farsh Aza of Sayyid al-Shuhada, the tears are utmost important. Every tear drop for the shahadat of Imam Hussein and the musibat of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Sallallahu Muhammad wa alayhi. You heard the riwayat. I'm speaking to the kids. Man baka wa abka wa tabaki wajabat lahul jannah. Whoever cried, whoever wept, whoever made others cry, and whoever made the face complexion as if they were crying, let alone shedding the tears, wajabat lahul jannah. Paradise and Jannat becomes wajib upon such an individual. Don't refrain. Let the emotions out. This Farsh Aza is the best remedy for all of your griefs. If you're grieving for something, if you're hurting because of something, if you have recently suffered a loss in the family, if you've lost a brother, if you lost a father, if you lost a mother, if you lost a child, you know where you find the remedy for it? Here on this Farsh Aza. When you hear on the 9th of Muharram the heart-wrenching masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar, Jawan, 18 years old, who was martyred, there's not a person, Muslim or Ghair Muslim, hearing those heart-wrenching masayib will shed tears. But at the same time, the masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar serve as the biggest remedy for someone who's lost a son. The masayib of Hazrat Ali Asghar, 6-month-old, so heart-wrenching that if an individual, regardless of his religious state, hears how he was martyred when his father was only asking for a few drops of water because he was thirsty for the past 3 days, yet all he received a 3-pronged arrow piercing into his throat. There's not a human being, if there's some sort of humanity in them, not to shed tears for that. But this same musibat of Hazrat Ali Asghar and Imam Hussein serves as a remedy for you when you have lost a 6-month-old or an infant of your own. Right away, you forget your own musibat because their musibat is greater. So therefore, this Majlis Aza is also ibadat. And in this ibadat, you're allowed to cry. In this ibadat, you're allowed to shed tears. In fact, it is recommended that you shed tears. Don't be shy. Thinking, what is that person going to say? What is that person going to say? If that person is looking at me, if I cry and think, no. We're all congregationally doing this ibadat together. Have you forgotten? And so someone might say, well, how is this ibadat? This is ibadat because one ayat of Quran and one hadith of Rasul Akram Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ayat of Surah Zariyat, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create insan and jinn except that they may worship me. So here we understand the purpose behind the khilqat of insan and jinn is what? Ibadat. Don't limit ibadat to your, furuideen. Ibadat has a very broad perspective. Rasulullah said in a riwayat, زَيِّنُوا مَجَالِسَكُمْ بِذِكْرِ Ali ibn Abi Talib. Give zina to your majalis with the zikr of Ali. What are we doing here? We're doing the zikr of Ali. We're doing the zikr of Ahl Bayt. Zikr Ahl Bayt, fadail of Ahl Bayt, their ta'limat. According to the hadith of Rasulullah, muttafaq alayh, zayyinu majalisakum. Give zinat to your majalis with the dhikr of Ali. My question to you, if Rasulullah had stopped over here at this hadith, would we not have taken his words? Of course. But Rasulullah knew that there might be people who might question. Rasulullah continued. He says, zayyinu majalisakum bi dhikr Ali ibn Abi Talib fa inna dhikrahu dhikri. Because when you remember Ali, you remember me. Rasulullah did not stop over here either, because today people will come, Rasulullah is dead. Mata. Don't stand on his qabr. Don't do ziyarat. Don't ask for help. Don't do tawassul. So Rasulullah continued. فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَهُ ذِكْرِي وَذِكْرِي ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ. And when you remember me, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ ibadah. And the remembrance of Allah is ayn ibadat. Therefore, dhikr Ali is dhikr Rasul. Dhikr Rasul is dhikr Allah. And dhikrullah is ayn ibadat. So when you gather over here doing the dhikr and the fadail of Ali and Ali, you are doing the fadail and dhikr of Rasulullah, and you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ala. Because this is one of the means of establishing the connection with the Imam of our time as well. That Imam is a man who's alive, who's hayy, who's mawjood. Unfortunately, there are so much propaganda against our madhab. Now, sometimes when people attack us from outside, get in the line. There's so many people who are already attacking. But when you get attacked from within, that's where the problem lies. Unfortunately, what's happening is that some ill-informed people within our own, wearing the same labada, sitting on the same mimbar, is feeding misinformation. And even just this year, a speaker from UK came out with his lectures questioning the ismat of Ahlul Bayt, Ma'sumin, saying that they were not Ma'sum. Only Allah is Ma'sum. That is a purely Sunni Aqidah. If you want to get in line with Sunnis. We don't debate with them over this because that's their belief. This is our belief. But you're Shia because you claim yourself to be Shia. And then you go ahead and say that Ma'sumin are not Ma'sum. Ma'sumin are not Ma'sum. Oxymoron over here. That the 12 Imams, they're not Ma'sum. Only Allah is Ma'sum. That fikr is fikr Ahl Sunnat. Because the fact that we differentiate and distinguish our Imams with the Khulafa is because of this reason. Because we believe in infallible Imam, not someone who is prone to making mistakes. They say, well, only make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be Ma'sum, therefore they have associated, na'udhu billah, associated misconduct to Rasulullah as well. You find so much misconduct in their books. The main books of Ahl Sunnah, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. This year in Ashra Ula, I had mentioned riwayat from these books, quoting, devaluing, discrediting the kirdar and the character of Rasulullah. So you don't take his words seriously. Rasulullah was an ordinary man. He used to make mistakes. And then this person comes out. At the same time, he's speaking how? He's speaking against Ma'asum. They're not Ma'asum. They don't have ilm ghaib. Whatever ilm ghaib they have is, or whatever ismat that they have is because of their refined souls. You and I can also gain access to that. That means if you and I do enough riyazat, if you and I refrain from haram, if you and I refrain from makruhat, if you and I perform wajib and mustahabbat, we can also attain those statuses that Masumeen had. We can also get there. The door is open for us. It's not like we can't get there. This is what this individual is saying. Not understanding that imamat and ismat is not kasbi. You don't earn this by doing a certain things. It is ata from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That is our aqidah, that Allah bestowed upon them this ismat and taharat. It's not something which they refined their souls over the years to get to this position, for example, to get to this rank. No, they were born in this way. From the beginning of their life, they were masoom. It's not like the Sunni aqidah that Rasulullah, for example, did this or did that until he became Nabi, for example. No. Even after his nubuwwat, they associate certain things which you and I would not associate with ourselves, for example. So here the problem lies when people from within our own circle start to cause fitna and start to create confusion amongst the youth as well. They're like, what do we do now? Yes, this person makes sense because, if they were masoom, then how could they be role models for us? They were masoom, but their ismat is different than the ismat of angels. Angels do not have the faculty to commit sin. That means they're not programmed to commit sins. While that is different when it comes to Prophet and our 14 Masumeen. Our 14 Masumeen have the ability to, na'udhu billah, commit sin. Nobody's stopping them from eating something haram. Nobody's stopping them from lying. Nobody's stopping them from doing anything which is forbidden. Are you telling me in the time of Amirul Mu'mineen, when I'm sitting in front of Amirul Mu'mineen cannot do something which is, for example, haram. He's more than capable, but he won't because of the ismat that he has. So you realize the difference between the angels and Masumeen? Angels have no way of doing it because they're programmed that way. While our imams, the ismat that they have, things are in front of them. They can if they want to. But this requires a bigger skill to refrain from such a thing. It's not like their hands are tied that they cannot, for example, grab a hold of something which is haram. No. That's why when a person came and asked our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi wasalam, he said, Imam, how is it that you don't commit sins, and not only that you don't commit sins, you don't even think about committing sins? Many of us, we don't commit sins, but we have thought about doing it, for example. Many of us have not committed many of these crimes, but we may have thought about doing it. Imam, on the other hand, is someone not only does not, but doesn't even think about committing sins. Hazrat Isa said to his followers, Hazrat Musa told you to don't commit adultery. I'm telling you to not even think about committing adultery. There's a difference between the two. He said, imagine you paint your house or your room white, and then you lit a fire in the middle of the room. Even if you don't burn the walls, because of the fire and the ashes, you will stain the walls. He said that's what happens when you think about something. Think about sinning, even if you don't do it, you have tainted your minds. So that person asked, Imam, how is it that you don't commit? Imam gave an example. Imam gave this example, so I'm giving it from the mimbar. I'll try to make it so that it's not too gross for you. Imam said, imagine if there was food sitting in front of you, and it was your favorite dish, but it had it was rottening into, for example, garbage. He said, what is your favorite dish? He said, biryani. He said, yeah, we threw away biryani 3 days ago from the garbage. You bring it out and you present it for me. Hey, here you go, biryani. He said, I'm not going to eat this biryani. This is from 3 days ago sitting in the garbage. You want me to eat this? When you don't even think about eating that favorite dish of yours, which was in garbage for 3 days, rottening in it. You don't eat it, that's one thing. You don't think about eating it either. And then Imam gave example of even human waste. That how abhorrent it is for you to think about eating the human waste. Would you even think about it? He said, no. He said, guna in front of us are the same way. We look at guna as similar to this waste and this garbage, which you don't even think about eating. That's why our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, عجبت لمن يتفكر في مأكوله كيف لا يتفكر في معقوله. I'm surprised at an individual who's so careful what he eats, ma'kul, right? That which is eaten. But not careful at all what he puts into his aql, ma'kul. Look at the word that Imam used. Ma'kulihi, that which is eaten. Ma'kulihi, that which is put into your minds. And so I heard a scholar give a very, lively example. There were these two brothers. They wanted to go out and watch a movie with their friends, as our teenagers are. And so they asked their father, oh father, our friends are going to watch that movie, we're going to go with them. Father said, which movie? He said, that movie. It's only PG-13. And we are 15. So father's like, no, I don't think that movie is appropriate for you. How can it not be? We're 15 and that movie is PG-13. Father said PG-13 according to Islam or according to the standards of this society? He said there are certain things in that movie which are not appropriate for you. Not for you, not for me. Forget about that. He said, but we're old enough. He said, end of discussion. We're not going to have this. You can't watch this movie. Of course, the children had no way of going against the father, so they were bummed out. They went up to their rooms, sad that, friends are going to watch movie and all that stuff. So the father, realizing this, he goes and he bakes, brownies for them because they really like the brownies. He brings the brownies for them. They could smell it, knocks on their door. They were just laying on their bed. He said, look, I baked some brownies for you. The ones that you really like. But before you eat it, there's a disclaimer. I went into the backyard and I picked up some stuff laying in our backyard and I added to the recipe. The kids are like, we're not eating this. What did you put in this? He said, don't worry about it. It's not that much, which you won't even taste. Just very minute amount. He said, no, you got to tell us what did you put in it. He said, in the backyard, sometimes cats come, sometimes dogs walk by our backyard and, they leave behind certain things. Again, I don't want to say it from the mimbar. So I just used a little bit of it, dry of course, and I added to the brownie and I baked it. It's all cooked. He said, ew, this is gross. We're not eating this. You want us to eat something which is possibly dog poop or something like that? He said, why not? It's only minute. He said, even if it's little, we're not eating it. He said, you're not eating it because there's small amount of something which is gross in it, but you're willing to watch something which has a small amount of gross stuff in it. Hence the call of Imam, second Imam, عجبت لمن يتفكر في معقوله كيف لا يتفكر في معقوله. I'm surprised at a person who's so careful what he puts in his belly and eats, but is not careful at all what he puts into his mind. We got to be careful what we put in our minds. The standards that are set by the movie industry, the PG-13 and this and that, they're not by any standard anything which will be appropriate for us. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. It is important to have connection with this Majlis Aza and with Imam Zamana. You know, the same individual who's causing this sort of fitna has come out and talked about, another individual has come out and talked about creating doubt in the wujud of Imam Zamana. Because 1100 years have passed, they're casting doubts into the minds of the people. That Imam Zamana, yes, there's a concept, but he's not alive. He's similar concept which the Ahl Sunnah have. This is why these majalis should be geared to keep that strong connection with Imam of our time. If we are weakening that connection, we should be making strength to go ahead and make this connection strong and strong. You don't have to meet Imam Zamana to have that sort of connection. And there was a story of an alim, who was from Rasht, Iran. He was chosen by Mirza Shirazi to be the Qazi. He said, one of my travels to Tuwairij by boat, I saw there were people sitting in it, they were chattering and talking. There was this one individual who was so serious and he was so quiet. And he was not taking part in all the vain conversation, although he was the same family member. He said, I asked and I inquired that individual. He said, why is it, who are these people, first of all? He said, they are my family members. They're all from Ahl Sunnah. I used to be Sunni as well, but my mother was Shia, and my mother made me become Shia as well. He said, well, that does not explain why you're not engaging into this vain conversation with them. He said, an event happened to me. He said, how did you become Shia? He said, my mother had told me that whenever you get stuck somewhere where you don't find any way out, and you see that all the doors are closed for you, and there's no umeed left in anything, at that moment, call out on Imam of your time by saying, Ya Aba Saleh al-Mahdi adrikni. Oh, Aba Saleh, oh Imam Mahdi, come for my rescue. He said, one day I found myself in a similar situation. And when I could not find any way out of it, I remembered these words of my mother. And I said, Ya Aba Saleh adrikni, as if I found an individual walking next to me and I hadn't even noticed. He was wearing green amama, and as if he was walking along with me all this time and I hadn't even noticed. He came and he spoke to me. The moment he spoke to me, all of my pain and hammogam went away. There was this feeling that I found in myself that before that I was so much in pain. And he said, at that moment, I realized this is the Imam of the time. So I said to him, oh Imam, can you walk along with me? He said, similar to you, there are hundreds of people who are calling, Ya Aba Saleh adrikni. I have to go for their rescue as well. And then this alim makes a point by saying, this individual was Ahl Sunnah at that time. He said, if a Sunni individual who does not even belong to Maktab Tashayyu calls upon Imam of the time with khulus, do you think a Shia child and an individual calls upon Imam Zaman, he won't come for his rescue? You got to have faith and firm belief in Imam, and you'll be able to attain that status. You know Shaykh Mufid, why is he called Mufid? Some believe that his title Mufid was given to him by Imam Zamana. Imam Zamana is the one who gave him this title of Mufid. There was this debate that he had with an individual by the name of Abdul Jabbar al-Mu'tazili. Abdul Jabbar al-Mu'tazili came to Shaykh Mufid, whose name was Abdullah Nu'man. Muhammad Abdullah Nu'man, that was the name of Shaykh Mufid. He was known as Shaykh Mufid. You and I have only heard Shaykh Mufid. This title is given to him by Imam Zamana. As Abdullah ibn Jabbar al-Mu'tazili comes to him and he debates him. Shaykh Mufid asks him, what do you say about Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla? He said, I believe what it means. He said, what does the word mawla mean? He said, the word mawla means sarparast, master, aqa. He said, if you believe that mawla means sarparast, mawla, aqa, then why the conflict between Shias and Sunnis? Let's get rid of this conflict. If you believe in the word mawla to be what we believe in the word mawla, then why there's a conflict? He said, wait a minute. That is a riwayat, but the khilafat of Abu Bakr is dirayat. Let me explain the two words. Dirayat is something which you have firm knowledge of. For example, right now majlis is happening right here. Every single person sitting over here, you have the dirayat of this majlis. But someone told you there's a majlis going on across town at so-and-so's house as well. You don't have dirayat over that majlis. That is only what? Riwayat for you. Someone said, I saw someone else is also having a majlis at this time. So which is more believable for you? The one that is happening right here or the one that is happening in someone's house? You believe more in the one that is happening in front of you. The word dirayat means that which is known to you, which is firmly known to you. Riwayat is what? Maybe or maybe not. Understood the two words? Dirayat and riwayat. This man said, wait a minute. That is a riwayat. Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. But the khilafat of Abu Bakr is dirayat. It took place. He was the first khalifa. No doubt about it. Sheikh Mufid said, sure, we'll take your word. Sheikh Mufid then asked him another question. Interesting debate. He asked him another question. He said, what about the qawl of Rasulullah regarding Ali harbuka harbi wa silmuka silmi? Your fight is my fight. Your battle is my battle. Whoever makes peace with you makes peace with me. Whoever fights you fights me. He said, true. Rasulullah said that about Ali on numerous occasions. He said, and what do you tell me about those people who stood up against Ali in the battle of Jamal? Ummul Mu'mineen, the companions such as Talha and Zubair stood up against Imam Ali. He said, yes, they did stand up against Imam Ali. Battle of Jamal did take place, but all of those people we've heard made tawbah and they repented, so we can't scold them. Sheikh Mufid said, hold on a second. The battle of Jamal is dirayat. Their tawbah is riwayat. You just told me a moment ago that no aqil individual will take riwayat over dirayat. That's why you conflicted with man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. This over here is the similar situation. Battle of Jamal took place. They stood up against Ali. That is dirayat. They repented is only a riwayat. According to that, we can't take your word. Abdul Jabbar Mu'tazili was dumbfounded. He said, is there anyone who can respond to this sort of claim and this sort of argument? Nobody did. Right away, they all accepted madhab tashayyu. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. They all believe in the hadith of Qadir. It's just that they have conflict over the word Mawla. So there was a Shia alim who lived in Zahedan. Zahedan in Iran is a Sunni populated town. Majority are Ahl Sunnah in Sistan and Balochistan. So he invited the Sunni alim to his house, who came. They had, dinner together, and they debated over Man kunta mawla fahada aliyun mawla. After having this debate and this Shia alim giving proofs after proofs after proofs, which Allama Amini has written an entire book called Al-Ghadir upon it, the Sunni alim continued to respond and respond and respond. They couldn't reach any sort of, conclusion. And then it was time for them to depart. So the Sunni alim says, I must leave now. They shook hands, they had dinner, they debated, nicely done, without any hard feelings. The Sunni alim leaves. Because he had come from far distant, about 2 hours drive, so he was going back. The Shia alim after a while thought about something and then called his friend. He said, something came to my mind, can you come right away? He said, I was just at your house. We sat for a few hours, talked. What is it that you want now? He said, there's something that I need to tell you. He said, tell me over the phone. He said, no, it cannot be told over the phone. Baaz cheezein phone pe nahi batayi ja sakti. So you must come in person. He said, can I come at another time? Because I'm almost about to reach home. It might have happened to you as well that you are going somewhere and you forget something. The worst feeling is that you have to go back for that one thing. The Sunni alim says, is there a way that I can come back at another time? I'm almost home. I'm tired of driving an hour and a half. He said, if you're a true friend, you will come back. So, of course, the Sunni alim had no choice. The friendship came in between. He turns his car around, drives all the way back, knocks on the door, rings the bell. The Shia alim opens the door, hugs his friend, and he says, I wanted to tell you how much I love you and how much I cherish this friendship. He said, that's it? He said, yeah, that's it. He said, you could have told me that over the phone. In fact, you don't even need to tell me this. Everybody knows our friendship. And when there's friendship, we love each other. Are you sure you made me drive 2 hours just for this? Have you gone mad? Have you lost your mind? He was really enraged, infuriated. This is a true story. And after he was done blasting at his Shia friend, Alim, the Shia Alim said, are you done? He said, yes, but I'm really mad. I'm rethinking about our friendship now. He said, I made you drive back in your car, in comfort of your car, for an hour and a half to tell you that you are my friend and I really love you. You start questioning my mind. Rasulullah waited in the plains of Ghadir for 3 days in the heated weather and under the beating sun, made those who had gone to Medina come back, those who had already reached home, made them come back after the event of Hajj. They had gone back, waited for those who were still coming from Mecca, stayed there in the plains, in the heated desert of Arabia for 3 days, only to announce that Ali is my friend, I really love him. Does that make any sense? Kya isme koi haqiqat hai? Do you think Rasulullah would do such a thing? Would you not start questioning the mind and the intellect of Rasulullah? That man just sat down. He said, all of the proofs that you gave me earlier on one side, this proof on one side, that definitely the announcement on Ghadir was not to announce that Ali is my friend. The qissa of the wilayat of Ali, or the friendship is over, is the wilayat of Ali, successorship of Ali, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intended. Salawat Muhammad. How can you say wali means friend and wali means dost? Wali has many meanings. But in this context, the word wali is what Rasulullah is to the people. Alastu awla bikum min anfusikum. Am I not superior to you than your own selves? When people say, Bala, yes you are. Then Rasulullah said, Man kuntu mawlahu, fahada aliyun mawla. Whomsoever I am the mawla, Ali is their mawla. That's what the word mawla means. It does not mean friend. Everyone knows that Rasulullah is friends with Ali ibn Abi Talib. It does not mean that he loves Ali. Everybody knows that he loves Ali. I recited the hadith yesterday. Oh Ali, hubbuka ya'kulu sayyat kama ya'kulul hatab. Ya'kulul nar al-hatab. Your love burns away the sins the way fire burns away the wood. So that is as far as the wilayat of Ali is concerned. Let me bring you back to the ayat that I had initially recited before I bring it towards the close. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna. O the serene soul, return to your Lord in the state that you are satisfied and your Rabb is satisfied. Enter, become one of my ibadat guzar, and enter into my paradise. You know, we're all trying to satisfy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hopefully. With our amal, with our actions, we're only trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no one else. Pleasing ma'asumeen is pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're trying to please Bibi Sayyida over here. We're trying to please the Imam of our time. And with their pleasure, we are attaining the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the motive, that's the maqsad. But here are certain individuals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to please. He said, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna irja'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya. It is not enough that we are satisfied with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is needed is that Allah is also satisfied with us. While we are spending all our lives trying to satisfy and seek this satisfaction of Allah, there are certain people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to satisfy. How is it possible that Allah is trying to satisfy someone? I'll prove you from Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. O Habib, an qareeb Allah aapko wo ata karega jisse aap razi ho jayenge. اس سے کیا مراد ہے؟ اللہ چاہتا ہے اپنے حبیب کو راضی کرنا. کس طریقے سے حبیب کو راضی کیا؟ آیت نازل ہوئی بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم انا اعطیناک الکوثر. اے حبیب ہم نے آپ کو کوثر عطا کی. نماز ادا کیجئے، قربانی دیجئے. یقیناً آپ کا دشمن ابتر ہے. یہ وہ کوثر ہے جس کا نام ہے فاطمہ الزہرا سلام اللہ علیہا. ہم اور آپ اللہ کی خوشنودی حاصل کرنا چاہتے ہیں. اللہ کچھ لوگوں کو یہاں پہ اطمینان خوشنودی دے رہا ہے، یا ان لوگوں کو سیٹسفائی کر رہا ہے، یا ان لوگوں کو راضی کر رہا ہے. کہا فادخلی فی عبادی، میرے عبادت گزار بندوں میں شامل ہو جا. اس عبادت کے مفہوم کو سمجھیے. عبادت کو consider this عبادت to be your means of speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah asked Hazrat Musa, Ya Musa, oh Musa, what is in your hand? Ma tilka bi yaminika ya Musa. What are you holding in your hands? Hazrat Musa could have replied back by saying, this is the staff or the cane that you have given to me. But he gives a lengthy answer. Hiya asaya tawakku alayha ahushu biha ala ghanami waliya ma'aribu ukhra. Long answer. It could have been answered in one sentence. This is my staff, this is my cane, I recline upon it, I break the leaves with it, I run my animals with it, and there are many other things that I do with this. Oh Musa, why are you prolonging the conversation? Hazrat Musa responded by saying, Allah has spoken to me, I am Kalimullah, I want to prolong this conversation with my Habib. He said, what is the means of us speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Rasulullah went to Mi'raj. He spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this lengthy hadith of Mi'raj. He came back, he told people, some believed in him, some didn't. Those who believed in him said to Rasulullah, oh Rasulullah, we want to do Mi'raj as well. Primarily so that we can speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah said, Allah has created you Mi'raj over here. As-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. یہ نماز تمہاری معراج ہے. اس نماز کو انجام دو گے اللہ سے گفتگو کر سکو گے. 5 مرتبہ دن میں تم کو یہ توفیق مل رہی ہے کہ تم اللہ سے محو گفتگو ہو سکو، مگر تم ہی ہو کہ جو اللہ سے گفتگو نہیں کرنا چاہتے. فادخلی فی عبادی، میرے عبادت گزار بندوں میں شامل ہو جاؤ. علی وہ عبادت گزار بندہ ہے کہ جس نے یہ الفاظ کہے کفا بی عزن ان تکون لی ربا وکفا بی فخرا ان اکون لک عبدا. اے حبیب میرے فخر کے لیے یہی کافی ہے کہ تو میرا رب ہے، اور میری عزت کے لیے یہی کافی ہے کہ میں تیرا عبد ہوں. یعنی علی عبادت کو وہ فخر سمجھ رہے ہیں کہ جو کسی اور چیز میں نہیں ہے. بہت چیزیں ذہن میں ہیں، وقت گزرتا جا رہا ہے. کہا انت کما احب فجعلنی کما تحب. اے حبیب تو ایسا ہے کہ جیسا میں تجھے چاہتا ہوں، تو مجھے ویسا بنا دے جیسا تو مجھے چاہتا ہے. یہ امیر المومنین کے کلمات ہیں. لہذا آپ دیکھیے کہ عبادت خدا کو انسان کم نہ سمجھے. وہ مقام ہے کہ جس کے لیے پہلے رسول کو بیان جو کیا جاتا ہے. آپ اور ہم جب تشہد پڑھتے ہیں تو ہم کیا کہتے ہیں؟ اشہد ان محمدن عبدہ ورسولہ. پتہ چلا عبودیت اتنی بزرگ ہے کہ پہلے عبودیت آتی ہے پھر رسالت آتی ہے. پہلے عبادت آتی ہے پھر رسالت آتی ہے. ورنہ کہہ دیتا اللہ اشہد انک رسول و عبد. یہ نہیں کہا اشہد ان محمدن عبدک ورسولہ. یعنی اس ترتیب کو بیان کرنے کا مقصد یہ ہے کہ عبادت کا کیا بلند و بالا مقام ہے. اور آخر میں کہا وادخلی جنتی، میری جنت میں داخل ہو جاؤ. یقیناً یہ جنت وہ مقام ہے کہ جس کے لیے امیر المؤمنین نے یہ کہہ دیا کہ اگر تم اپنے نفس کا سودا کرنا چاہتے ہو، وہ یا ایتھا النفس کی بات لائی، اگر اپنے نفس کا سودا کرنا چاہتے ہو فلا تبیعوها الا بالجنہ. اپنے نفس کو جنت سے کم تر کسی چیز کے ساتھ سودا نہ کرنا. اگر کسی چیز سے تم سودا کر سکتے ہو اپنے نفس کا تو وہ صرف اور صرف جنت ہے. اس کے علاوہ کسی اور چیز سے اپنے نفس کا سودا مت کرنا. اب آپ کو سمجھ میں آیا امام حسین جب کھڑے ہیں کربلا میں تو امام کی الفاظ کہ میرے لیے بڑا آسان ہے علی اصغر کی شہادت دینا. یعنی کیسے آسان ہے امام؟ حون علی بأنہ بعین اللہ، یہ کام میرے لیے آسان ہے. امام کیسے یہ کام آپ کے لیے آسان ہے؟ آپ کا ششمہ آپ کے ہاتھ میں ہے اور اس کے گلے میں تیر لگ رہا ہے، یہ آسان ہے؟ امام کہیں ہاں یہ آسان ہے، اس لیے کہ یہ اللہ کی آنکھوں کے سامنے ہو رہا ہے. اگر خدا نخواستہ اللہ یہ نہیں دیکھ رہا ہوتا تو یہ میرے لیے مشکل ہوتا. چونکہ اللہ کی آنکھوں کے سامنے ہے لہٰذا یہ آسان ہے میرے لیے، کیونکہ اللہ جانتا ہے اس کا اجر وہ دینے والا ہے. اسی لیے تو جب امام نے استغاثہ بلند کیا، حل من ناصر ینصرنا حل من مغیث یغیثنا، تو اس کا ایک اثر یہ ہوا، جبرائیل امین آتے ہیں، کہتے ہیں حسین تم نے پکارا، تمہاری مدد کے لیے ہم حاضر ہیں. حسین نے واپس بھیج دیا. جب ابراہیم خلیل نے تمہاری مدد نہ دی تو حسین تمہاری مدد کیسے لے سکتا ہے؟ یہ تو امتحان خداوند ہے کہ جس سے ہم کو گزر کے جانا ہے. یہ آسان مرحلہ ہے ہمارے لیے. لیکن اس کہنے کا ایک اثر یہ ہوا کہ امام کو نظر آیا ایک جوان تلوار لے کے خیمے سے باہر نکلنا چاہتا ہے اور ایک بیوی بڑی مشکل سے اس کو روک رہی ہے. امام اس خیمے کی جانب پہنچتے ہیں، کیا دیکھا؟ جوان بیٹا امام سجاد تلوار لے کے باہر آ رہے ہیں. امام نے روکا، اے بیٹا کیا ارادے ہیں؟ کہا بابا آپ نے بلایا، استغاثہ بلند کیا، کیسے ممکن ہے کہ میں لبیک نہ کہوں؟ امام نے کہا ارے علی سجاد یہ آسان مرحلہ ہے، شہادت آسان مرحلہ ہے جس سے تم نے گزرنا ہے. ارے وہ بہت سخت ہوگا. امام سے پوچھا مولا کیا ہوا علی اکبر کو؟ کہا قد قتل. کہا کہاں گئے عباس؟ کہا قد قتل. کہا کہاں گئے جوانان؟ کہا قد قتل. ارے ایک ایک شہید ہو گیا بیٹا، اب کوئی باقی نہ رہا. جناب امام زین العابدین پہ کیا گزری ہوگی. لیکن باپ نے روکا. امام حسین نے کہا شہادت آسان مرحلہ ہے، ہم اس سے گزر جائیں گے، لیکن جس سے تم گزرو گے ارے خدا کسی شریف کو نہ گزارے. بہن بیٹیاں پھوپھیاں تمہارے ہمراہ ہوں گی، سروں سے چادر چھینی جائے گی. اسی لیے امام زین العابدین جب کربلا سے پلٹ کے واپس مدینہ پہنچتے ہیں، 34 سالہ زندگی امام کی، سن 61 سے لے کے 95 تک امام نے گریہ جو کیا تو گریہ کرتے ہوئے الشام 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 کہتے تھے. کربلا نہیں، کوفہ نہیں، شام کا تذکرہ کرتے تھے. میں کہوں گا مولا الشام کیوں کہتے ہیں؟ شاید امام جواب دے. ارے شام میں وہ دیکھا جو کہیں نہ دیکھا. یزید شراب کے نشے میں میرے بابا کے سر کے ساتھ بے حرمتی کر رہا تھا. میری پھوپھی اماں بے مقنع و چادر یزید سے ہم کلام تھیں. ایک عالم نے مجلس پڑھ رہے تھے، آیت اللہ بیٹھے تھے. جیسے ہی اس عالم نے یہ پڑھا، ذاکر نے یہ پڑھا کہ زینب یزید سے ہم کلام ہوئی، اس عالم نے کہا آگے مت پڑھنا. ارے میں برداشت نہیں کر سکتا. زینب یزید سے ہم کلام ہوئی. اجرکم اللہ، خدا کسی غم میں نہ رلائے سوائے غم آل محمد کے. امام کے اوپر کیا سخت گھڑی تھی. الشام کہتے تھے، روتے جاتے تھے. جب قصائی کے پاس سے گزرتے، کسی جانور کو ذبح ہوتا دیکھتے، پوچھتے قصائی سے کیا تم نے اس کو پانی پلایا؟ کہا مولا میں آپ کا ماننے والا ہوں، یہ مستحب ہے کہ جانور کو ذبح کرنے سے پہلے پانی پلاتے ہیں. امام گریہ کرتے، ارے میرے بابا کو شہید کر دیا عطشانن، 3 دن کے بھوکا پیاسے. اجرکم اللہ. امام زندگی بھر روئے، مگر کیسے روئے؟ جب گریہ کرتے کھانا سامنے آتا، جب پانی لایا جاتا، لوگ کہتے تھے مولا. منال نے کہا مولا آپ کتنا گریہ کریں گے؟ آپ تو امام وقت ہیں، آپ کو کیسے تسلی دی جائے؟ جائے آپ کو کیسے صبر کی تلقین کریں. آپ ہمیں صبر کی تلقین کرتے ہیں. بس کیجئے آپ زیادہ گریہ نہ کریں, آپ کی صحت کے لیے ٹھیک نہیں. امام نے جواب دیا, اے منہال تم نے ہمارے ساتھ انصاف نہ کیا. یعقوب کا ایک فرزند ان کی آنکھوں سے اوجھل ہو گیا, انہوں نے اتنا گریہ کیا, قرآن میں آیت آ گئی وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ, ارے ان کی آنکھیں سفید پڑ گئیں, رو رو کے اندھے ہو گئے. میرے سامنے میرے گھر کے 18 جوانوں کو شہید کیا, ذبح کر دیا, اور میں گریہ نہ کروں. الا لعنۃ اللہ القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا اي منقلب ينقلبون انا للہ وانا الیہ راجعون. بار الہ ہماری سے بات قبول فرما, ہم گناہ گار ہیں, ہمارے گناہوں سے درگزر فرما. ہمیں اہل بیت علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کے نقش قدم چلنے کی توفیق عطا فرما. ہمیں ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما. امام کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما, ان کے اعوان نثار میں شمار کر. ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم. ماتم حسین.
حسین 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 قتل الحسین بکربلا 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 قتل الحسین بکربلا. چلا کربلا سے جو قافلہ, چلا کربلا سے جو قافلہ, تو عجب نظارہ تھا حشر کا, تو عجب نظارہ حشر کا. کہیں سر کٹے کہیں گھر لٹا, کھلے سر یہ کہتی تھی فاطمہ قتل الحسین بکربلا قتل الحسین بکربلا. کہیں برچھیوں سے چھدا جگر, کہیں برچھیوں سے کہیں سر بریدہ تھے دو پسر, کہیں سر بریدہ تھے دو پسر تھے, کہیں امام بھی نوح گر, یہی شور تھا سر القمہ قتل. سب مل کے جواب دیں آپ لوگ. سب الحسین کربلا قتل الحسین بکربلا. نہیں تیر نکلے کمان سے, کہیں تیر نکلے کمان سے, کہیں خون بہتا تھا کان سے, کہیں خون بہتا تھا کان سے, کہیں ہونٹ ترتے زبان سے, کہیں بیڑیوں کی تھی یہ صدا قتل الحسین بکربلا قتل الحسین بکربلا. کسی جب رکاب حسین نے, کسی جب رکاب حسین نے, تو سکینہ آ گئی سامنے, تو سکینہ آ گئی سامنے. میں یہ حال کیسے بیاں کروں, میری آنکھ روتی ہے آرزو قتل الحسین بکربلا قتل الحسین بے کربلا یہی کہتا پھرتا تھا ہر شقی یہی کہتا پھرتا تھا ہر شقی چھری حلق شاہ پہ چل گئی چھری حلق شاہ پہ چل گئی نہ ہو لوٹنے میں ذرا کمی یہاں مال و زر کی کمی ہے کیا قتل حسین بے کربلا قتل حسین بے کربلا قتل حسین کربلا کہیں جبریل تھے سرنگو کہیں جبرائیل تھے سرنگو کہیں جبرائیل تھے سرنگو کہیں اہل عرش تھے بے سکون کہیں اہل عرش تھے بے سکون میں بیان کیسے یہ غم کروں میرے ساتھ روتے ہیں انبیاء قتل حسین بے کربلا قتل حسین بے کربلا دل مصطفیٰ کو تھی بے کلی دل مصطفیٰ کو تھی بے کلی صف انبیاء میں تھی کھلبلی صف انبیاء میں تھی بے کلی صف انبیاء میں تھی کھلبلی صف انبیاء میں تھی کھلبلی ہوا ذبح جب پسالی سر عرش گویتا نوحہ خاں قتل الحسین بے کربلا قتل الحسین بے کربلا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو ہوتے ہیں قتل سرور عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو سینے پہ زخم کھا کر نانا کے پاس پہنچے سینے پہ زخم کھا کر نانا کے پاس پہنچے ہم صورت پیمبر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو بھائی اکیلے میاں بیٹے کھلا رہے ہیں بھائی اکیلے میاں بیٹے کھلا رہے ہیں دے دو سہارا آ کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو ویران کر کے جھولا اصغر گئے جنا کو ویران کر کے جھولا اصغر گئے جنا کو گردان پہ تیر کھا کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر کی قبر سرور رن میں بنا رہے ہیں اصغر کی قبر سرور رن میں بنا رہے ہیں چہرے پہ خون مل کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری ہو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو آواز استغاثہ گونجی ہوئی رن میں آواز استغاثہ گونجی ہوئی رن میں نصرت کرو تم آ کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو غزالیے سکینہ ہے منتظر تمہاری غزالیے سکینہ ہے منتظر تمہاری پانی پلا دو آ کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو بالوں سے منہ چھپا کر جکڑی ہوئی رسن میں بالوں سے منہ چھپا کر جکڑی ہوئی رسن میں بیٹھی ہوں میں زمین پر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو بیمار کو ستمگر درے لگا رہے ہیں بیمار کو ستمگر درے لگا رہے ہیں اس کو بچا لو آ کر عباس تم کہاں ہو زینب پکاری رو کر عباس تم کہاں ہو یا اسے
السلام عليك يا ابن القاسم يا رسول الله المصطفى محمد بن عبد الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين المرتضى علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا فاطمة بنت محمد الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبو محمد حسن بن علي الناصر المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين بن علي سيد الشهداء. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل عباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وأصحاب الحسين وأسير الشام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن علي بن حسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا أبا جعفر محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن موسى بن جعفر القاذم. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا أبا جعفر محمد بن علي التقي الجواد. السلام السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن علي بن محمد الحادي النقي. السلام عليك يا أبو محمد حسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام عليك يا إمام صاحب الأسر والزمان الأعمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجه وسحر الله مخرجه. السلام عليك يا سيدي يا ابن الزهراء ورحمة الله وبركاته.
مومن مومنات یہ سورہ فاتحہ کی درخواست کی گئی ہے. رضیہ بیگم، موسیٰ خان، نسیم بانو، موسیٰ خان، نورین گل، حسن بیگ، ارشاد حسین، محمد علی، کمیل حسین، مشتاق حسین اور کل مومن اور مومنات کے لیے. اور مومن و مومنات یہ بھی اعلان سماعت فرما لیجیے، اب جو نیا پروگرام جو شروع ہوگا تھرسڈے سے شروع ہوگا اور تھرسڈے کو مجلس اعضا ہوگی. اس سے مولانا بنگلوری صاحب خطاب فرمائیں گے اور ٹائمنگ یہی ہوگا 8 بجے نماز، اس کے فوراً بعد مجلس اعضا شروع کر دی جائے گی. اور فرائیڈے کو جو ہے وہ مجلس اعضا 5:30 پہ ہوگی کیونکہ شب چینج ہوا ہے کہ مغرب کے بعد، اس لیے مغرب سے پہلے رکھی گئی ہے. تو آپ سے گزارش ہے کہ تمام مجلس میں، اور عید زہرہ جو سیٹرڈے کو وہی 8 بجے نماز ہوگی اور اس کے فوراً بعد میلاد شروع کر دیا جائے گا. بر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.